This episode contains discussions of sexual violence, trauma, and systemic injustice. Some content may be distressing or triggering, especially for survivors. Please listen with care and prioritize your well-being. Support resources and listen in the episode description below.
Welcome to No Longer Silenced, a podcast dedicated to fostering collaboration, uplifting survivors, and driving meaningful change. I'm Juelene Stennett, and today I'm joined by remarkable guests, Brampton City Councillor Rod Power and Aretha McCarthy, CEO of Revive. Councillor Power has deep commitment to the community, with over 35 years as a Brampton resident and a career dedicated to public service. Joining him is Aretha McCarthy, a passionate advocate for violence prevention and mental health, who leads Revive with a focus on community-driven change. Together, they'll share insights into how collaboration between policymakers and community advocates can create safer spaces for survivors and build a stronger, more supportive community. Let's dive into this important conversation. Good afternoon, Councillor Rod. Good afternoon, Aretha. How are you both doing today?
Well, thanks. You?
I'm great, thank you.
Good, thank you.
That's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do. I encourage either one of you to jump in. Either one of you to jump in at any time.
So, my name is Rod Power. I'm City Councillor for Brampton. I've been in Brampton for probably 45 years. I grew up in the H section and love the city.
My background, I've been in Brampton since I was 16. I've been living here for quite some time. Went to high school. I am the CEO of Revive. I've been a community-driven individual, all about youth, working with the youth and the community.
Thank you. So obviously you both have deep roots here. So how does it feel to be a part of this initiative, to be a part of sharing survivors' voices, sharing survivors' stories, and being a part of the resources, the support system, and the solutions to the problems?
Well, for me, I started this journey with Revive in 2024. So I've been the CEO for a year now. I've been in touch with survivors, I think, about 15 years, because I've been doing the work when it comes to prevention and intervention. So I've always been working with families, moms that's been abused, dealing with helping and supporting their children and how to get by when it comes to the system in itself. And I know that since I started working in my role as a CEO, I've also, been able to kind of be honest with myself and some of the feelings that I've suppressed on my own of being my own survivor, being a survivor myself. So those are the things that are kind of coming up now, being in my role, being servicing those who I service with the agency and then the community and what we do, working with individuals like Councillor Rod and doing the work that we do with our community.
For me, I don't know what term I would use, but I guess I'm a survivor, and I don't really like using the word survivor.
I agree.
But yeah, lived through it. So, now if we can work collaboratively with different agencies, different folks that are on the ground, we can maybe actually affect change. And I think that's what's missing. We're coping. We're not affecting any change.
I understand what you're saying. So I see you both have personal experiences where you both said that you don't really like the word survivor. Is there a reason for that you would like to share with us?
To be honest, I don't know. Even myself, the term victim and survivors, being in a room and, everyone trying to figure out kind of which one is better at this point. But I think we're at a stage right now, especially in the work that I do, is kind of trying to navigate and understand what the individual that's in front of you like to be, like to be seen. For me, I just want to be seen as someone who's overcome the challenges that was presented to me. And the word may be a survivor, but I believe that I'm an overcomer, right? and an overachiever, which is why I am where I am right now, right? But that may look different for anybody else that's walked the same walk that I did, but in a different perspective, in a different aspect, and gone through the same thing that I've gone through in a different way. So that's kind of it for me for the work.
I think the word survivor is used when somebody comes out of an accident, right? And none of this stuff is an accident. This is all stuff that's been done to somebody or individuals, and I think survivor really doesn't do it justice. It doesn't actually, to me, it just puts people into one category, and it's not one category. There's many different aspects of it, so I think that's why I don't like the word survivor.
I like that. It's a very sort of empowering sort of reframing of the word, and I think that your viewers kind of would appreciate that too. Do you find that with the people that you work with that they have the same sentiment?
I do. I think there's some that are okay with being called victims. There's some that are okay with being survivors, and there's some that will tell you straight off the bat, I'm not a victim and I'm not a survivor, right? They don't want to be identified with either, just who they are, and to be able to tell their story and to be able to speak on that, but also let everyone understand that they've gone through a phase in life where whether they're at a stage right now that they're ready to move forward or and seek help, and where that help lies. Sometimes they don't know the resources that they can get, but I think for me, it just depends on the person that walks through the door each and every day and who you speak to, the level of trauma that they've gone through, and that historical piece also makes a difference too, right?
So I've spent probably 25 years with corporate training and corporate development, and you teach future leaders. You can have the victim mentality, right? And anybody that takes that mentality or uses that persona usually is always, why me, why me, why me? And if you take that victim mentality, or you take that word survivor or victim, I think you're always going to be perpetually thinking back about what has happened.
Yeah, right.
You need to move on, you need to get to another stage.
That's very true. So you both actually hold very powerful positions with a lot of people time, a lot of people interaction. And you're talking about having sort of a leadership mentality and having the idea of moving forward. How do you deal with people that you're speaking to with that mentality in mind when you're giving them advice, when you're giving them counseling? How do you approach these conversations with people who may be suffering from a victim mentality?
Ooh, that was
That
tough.
was a good one.
That was tough.
That was a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think people want to be heard. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. It doesn't matter who you are, what background you have, what profession you're in. Everybody likes to speak about themselves. So I tend to let people speak. I tend to let people tell me their story or their background or what have you. But I also think it's about give them something that gives them light or gives them hope, right? And it's not necessarily condolences or hugs or what have you. It's about how do you carry forward? How do you move on?
Yeah, I think for me it's the same thing, but I would say more of the mindset, right? I think within all of us we can have that victim mentality depending on where we are in life in itself, but I think once you have that control of the mindset, and I talk to a lot of our clients like this and anyone who I come in contact with, is once you have control of your mind, you'll be able to accomplish and achieve everything, anything that you put your mind to, right? It's how you move forward with anything that's happened. So if you stay at a place in that victim mentality that you talk about, Councillor, you're going to stay there. You're not going to come out of it. You're not going to feel like there's anything beyond what you've experienced. But if you can tell yourself every day, because it's a consistent thing that you have to do, if you can actually tell yourself every single day that, you know, I am good enough, I can do good, I can be better, the mindset, it switches, it changes, and you'll have the power to get up and move forward, and then things just starts happening, things start, you know, like falling into place. And I think with that mindset and having conversation with others and kind of expressing that, they've come back and said, oh my God, Aretha, this has worked, because I'm not sitting down kind of dwelling in my own puddle of, you know, like bad things. I was able to get up and kind of try. And the thing is, try. A lot of us won't do that and get stuck in that like victim mentality that we're talking about.
I think too, a lot of times too, if you are direct with people, not necessarily direct in the way of being nasty or ignorant to people, but if you're direct with them and give them options, then that also helps as well, right? Because and I think whenever I've been involved with different organizations, whether it be nonprofits or charities or what have you, they ask me how I can help them. And if I'm going in there and I'm going to be, for me, if I'm going in there and I'm going to make it all fluff or make it all about, you know, oh, you're doing all these amazing things, but not give them anything and not be straight with them, then I'm not actually helping them.
That honesty piece is important.
Absolutely.
Because honesty builds trust. And once trust has been established, that can just do so much things. And I think when we interact with, you know, when, like Councillor Rod is saying, when we interact with agencies like us, or we interact with, you know, the community members, that trust, once we're honest and letting everything out what we can do for you, that's like the biggest piece.
So, you know, you're talking a lot about trust, and you're both very busy. That's obvious to me. So I'm sure you deal with people of all ages, of all backgrounds, and when you do form that trust relationship, they probably depend on you a lot. How do you balance people who are constantly reaching out to you for support, for advice, with your life and your schedule and your personal needs that you have? How do you find the time to take care of yourself and then give back to the community as you want to?
I think, again, it's that mindset, right? I think when you're looking at a leadership role, or you're looking at leadership mentality, you put people into circles, right? So how close are they to you personally versus going outside the box or what have you, or it's always that circle that it always is. So you have your close network of people that you work with within the circle, and you're available for them anytime, right? Once you're getting outside that circle, right, then, you know, your availability changes, and it's just a matter of balancing it, right?
Right.
Just making sure, though, you always get back to them and you always talk to them.
I think that's important, because collaboration, why we're doing this podcast, it's why we're here. It's a big piece, right? Being able to ensure that we're all working together, we're all supporting each other. Granted, not everyone is going to get our time, right? That wants our time, because of all that we are doing and the work that we are trying to do and strive to accomplish each and every day. And we are not perfect human beings. I'm not a perfect human being. I'm not speaking for you. But I can say I'm not a perfect human being. There's times where I can't get back to someone for days, right? And that's sometimes for my own personal, like, mental health that I have to take care of, or, you know, something else that I have to be doing for someone else. You know, whether it's an agency, supporting them while doing the work that I'm doing, supporting my clients, supporting my staff, you know, working with Councillor to ensure that we're supporting the community. So it's just so much things that we're doing, and we can't get to everyone, right? So we're only human, and as Councillor said, like, there's going to be that tight-knit circle where that communication is, and, you know, we're making sure that we're doing the work. And then there's sometimes, like, if we ain't working together, then it's not going to make sense,
Right.
and then it's not going to be an ongoing thing, right? And as long as we can be honest with each other, and you said it before, be frank and lay everything out on the table. Can I do this or can I not? Instead of, like, an agency like Revive calling Councillor Rob, like, Councillor, You know, it's and it can be done. I think it's more so of laying it out on the table. We aren't able to do this, but we're able to provide other resources and be able to send you somewhere else too, right? Because then it also gives me a relief that if I can't help you and support you, someone else can, right? And if we're collaborating and working together, then we'll be able to kind of get that in good faith of helping everyone, even when we can't do it ourselves.
I think too, like for me, especially in the role that I'm in, residents probably the most part, human nature says that you can't get to everybody all the time. And residents understand that, but I think as long as you make the effort to go back, right? Whether it be today, tomorrow, you're making that effort, or you know, I've had residents call and I said, hey, I'm busy, I'm doing whatever through text, and I said, I'll call you tomorrow at this time. As long as you hold your word and you do call it, then everybody's understanding.
That's wonderful. I think talking about holding your word, you've mentioned it several times. That is so important. And in community work, building that trust is basically the foundation of all the work that you do. But again, in community work, we talk a lot about self-care. We talk a lot about filling your tank to be able to give to others. And so how do you advocate for other collaborations, for other agencies to partner with you to be able to deal with that overflow or deal with the times when you're just unable to be there? How do you encourage other agencies to come on board and adapt the mission that you're living with?
It's a hard one.
You go. Fortunately for me, I have a title, so I can make phone calls, really. Like,
lead with the title.
The title helps and opens a lot of doors, right? So I don't think it really has a factor in that sense, to be honest. You would have.
Oh, well, I mean, call it all out. Well, I don't have a title like that where I can just call. And I think I'm navigating now, you know, being the CEO of Revive, overturning everything, and as a crisis center that deals with folks who are sexually abused, human trafficked, domestic violence. What I notice is that, you know, we're all working in silos in a way, and you have to be able to kind of sit down and have those conversations. How can we work together? How can we actually relieve the stress? Because as agency, we're all going through the stress. Like, we're all dealing with it. So, but we can relieve each other's stress, but we don't, right? And that's because we're all working in silos. We're not working together. And this is why I think something like this is important, because collaboration is key. And I find that if we're not collaborating, we won't be able to help the community in the way that we want to, in the way that we need to and should at that, right? So with my role, I've been finding it very difficult to get to that space of, you know, self-care. Because, for example, it's like helping someone else, that other agency may have a long waiting list than even we do. So then how does that help us and relieve, you know, the stress from us to then get the stress relief from the client who are trying to, right? And it's the same with them also, like with the other agencies. It's the same. So I think we're not there yet. How to get there, I don't know. I don't know, but I think we'll get there. And that's just me speaking for myself and what I've experienced. I think we'll get there, and I'm very hopeful. And I think, you know, also doing the walk, having those conversations, be seen, being your true self, like we talked about earlier, being honest about your capabilities and what you can and cannot do. I think that kind of sets the bar.
That is so important. It's repeated, the honesty part, because from, I think, anybody's experience, I can speak from my own experience. When you go in with this expectation of all of my problems are going to be solved today, all of my questions are going to be answered today, all resources that I need are going to be available to me today or given to me today, if that communication is not there from the out front, I'm going to be disappointed. And anything that I could have taken from the experience, I might not, because I'm leaving with, well, they didn't tell me everything I wanted to know, but if I know ahead of time, this is what we can help you with, and hopefully, because of collaboration, here's where you can go to get what else you need, then I can go in feeling very confident in knowing that this need is going to be addressed today. And I can do my own part, because everybody does have to do their part. I can do my own part to move forward and say, okay, this is where I need to go to get the rest of what I need. And sometimes it's not, 1 or 2 places. It may be 4 or 5 places. It may take weeks, months, you never know. But knowing that there is that from the beginning is really helpful. And I think people really do need to understand that. So again, being transparent, being honest, building that trust over time is what will really allow people to get past where they are, again, with the victim mentality, or just feeling stressed, or feeling like there's no help for me. And I think sometimes it's not necessarily a victim mentality. Maybe they've had a lot of roadblocks in their path. But if they know when they get to your agency, when they speak to you, that they're going to be provided with some more information, I think that really helps a lot to kind of smooth it over until they get to the next step. So in that vein, I ask you, what were some of the defining figures along your journey that did give you hope when you wanted to inspire others and to feel inspiration within yourself?
I've had a life, I'm telling you. So,
Yeah.
I can speak on the recent one. I think so before I got into my role, I got into a car accident. I was hit by an 18-wheeler. And that 18-wheeler lifted my car up and flew it on the other side of the highway. So with everything, I've been through some stuff in my life, but that, I was just like, that moment, I should have died, but I didn't, right? So there has to be a purpose. I've always thought that I had a purpose, but that was just but in the same time too, I did go into this mentality where I'm not supposed to be here. I don't have a purpose. Why do these things keep happening to me from left to right? But it gave me the sense of, honestly, empowered me. With everything that you've gone through, then you had this moment, girl, what can't you do?
Yeah.
So it was a big eye-opener for me, and I think when stuff like that happens, it allows me to empower other people too. And lived experience is so important, because when you have those lived experience, you can speak on those lived experience and help someone in the room. I always have this saying that anytime I do, whether it's a public speaking or anything at all, if I can help just one person, I've done what I needed to do for the day. I've done what I needed to do for the moment, because you never know who's in the room. You never know who needs that help. You never know, honestly, who's on the brink of honestly breaking.
Yes.
So for me, my life journey has been the ultimate pick up, get up, and go. You got this, right?
I'm a big believer in mentors, and I'm a big believer in mentoring people. And it was an old, we'll say an old boss of mine, actually said to me, he said, if you ask somebody to mentor and they denied it, or they said no, or what have you, then they weren't a good person anyway. So I think surrounding yourself with good people and mentors is a massive thing. And for me, I'll always say my mom is probably the biggest inspiration for me. She endured quite a lot. And then, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in the spot that I'm in. And then I look at my grandmother, who they sent me to live with when I was younger. And, I learned a lot. Wooden spoon helped out. But I used to call my grandmother mother, right? So, and I do a lot of things in life till this day. She's passed now quite a long time, but I do a lot of things in her honor and her memory. So last year we did a Christmas dinner for the community, and we invited over 100 kids to come in with their families, and we did a traditional Christmas dinner. And that was the inspiration of my grandmother. So I think the people that are in your lives on a consistent basis are the ones you draw from, right? And that's, you just have to understand how to draw it.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have people in my life. So you saying that, and even making the point of mentors, because I've looked for mentors and they have shut me down. So now that you've made that statement, now I know why, right? But I love that you stated that, because I've been in a position my entire life where I had to be my own mentor, right? And now I'm looking for a mentor, and it's like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? So you're expressing that and explaining that, it got you to where you are right now. I love that.
If you've asked anybody to be your mentor, they should be honored to do it. And if they're not honored to do it, then they're not a mentor to begin with. So you just cross it off and walk away.
I learned something today, because I was just like, is it me?
Well,
like, is it me?
Well,
Is it me? But yeah, that's good to know, because like I said, I've had a journey, and I feel like I've gone through that journey alone, experiencing things, empowering myself. So I have a thing where if I do get people in my life that's like, Aretha, I got you, don't worry about it, I'm like, really? This is abnormal. It's abnormal, but it's because of what I've been through, right? So it's a different dynamic here. Like, you can see, your mentors, your grandmother, your mom, and then you see me like, okay, I'm my own mentor. But it's that dynamic of knowing that it still worked for the both of us,
Right.
in a different capacity. Right? I love that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I can identify when you say, is it me? And you think, I have to be my own mentor, I have to be my own person, very strong and very independent, but that can also be taxing. And sometimes you can fall into, again, like, why is this happening again? And then you have to really pull yourself up, and then you move forward, and possibly something else happens again. So if you don't have a mentor and you are depending on yourself, you really have to take that time to reflect and then build on that reflection. I know that, enumerating on things can be difficult. You can get stuck in there, and the reflection turns into a bit of overthinking, maybe a little bit of depression, maybe a little bit of anxiety. But if you can use your experiences to figure out, how can I move past them? What could I do differently? Or what could other people in my life, how can I find that support system through other people in my life? And if you do find that you're the only one, being able to look back and say, how did I get myself out of that the last time? And being able to say, oh, I got me. I made it this far. It can be difficult, but it's totally worth it to keep moving ahead. And so that brings me to another question.
Well, just if I could add to
absolutely,
that.
yes,
So,
please.
all too many times when people look for mentors, they look for the crown jewel of mentor, or the unicorn of mentor, right? And I think that's the difference. If you're looking for, like, if I said I wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to be my mentor, well, obviously it's not going to happen.
Well, you never know.
It probably not going to happen.
There's the idea of manifesting it into fruition, right?
Yeah.
But, okay.
It's 2 different countries, a couple of 100,000 miles away. But when you think about mentors don't have to be that unicorn, and they don't have to be all-encompassing.
Right.
You can have a mentor for business. You can have a mentor for personal life. You can have a mentor for, home improvement projects. Whatever, mentors are there, right? And I think a lot of times people will go out and try to find that unicorn.
Right.
And don't do that. That's probably the worst thing to ever do.
Right.
Find somebody that can give you something, and they'll be there. And more importantly, like we talked about self-care and stuff, everybody's going through something, right? So it's always important to remember to be kind, but also too, some people's cups are full. So they might not don't want to be a mentor because they just don't want to be a mentor, or they don't like you, or what have you. It's just their cup's full. So, find some segmented, split it up and find different mentors. You can have different mentors for anything.
That's a great point, actually, and it makes me kind of think about the idea that you're Google searching for your mentor, but perhaps you can just find somebody that inspires you, and you don't necessarily have to say to them, "Will you be my mentor?"
Yeah.
But if you watch them and you spend time with them and you learn from them, then that's still a form of mentorship, and it doesn't necessarily. They don't have to feel a heavy responsibility, because if you do say officially, "Yes, I will be your mentor," you are taking on a responsibility to be your best self for the person that you're mentoring. So if you maybe don't want to take that on, but you do enjoy spending time with someone, they've told you before they admired this or that about you, you can maybe gently show them the ropes. You can take them around with you, introduce them to people, or at least just give them advice when this is what I did and this is what worked for me. So it doesn't always have to be this official, here's my mentor, here's the badge, now I'm going to do everything that you do. You have the opportunity to just spend time with people that inspire you. I like that. That's really nice. So in that case, I have to ask you both, what would you say to your younger self in terms of you found a mentor, you found a way to give yourself inspiration, but when you were younger, you had no idea where you would be today? Successful, helping other people, supporting your community. So what would you say to your younger self that maybe didn't feel like this was possible, had no idea, or maybe did feel like this was possible but didn't see the path to it? How would you keep yourself motivated back then?
You're looking at me now. That's actually really good. I don't know if I've had some amazing opportunities in life, and I've had some amazingly tough downfalls in life. I think to say to a younger self, just keep going. Don't worry about it. Right? There's nothing more you can say. If I look back when I was younger and think about the things that I wanted to do, or the person I wanted to become, I would say I failed. But it's not a question of failing, it's a question of keep moving forward. You're
For
up.
me, for me, I think I would echo that. Possibly just say it will be okay. Because for me, I think it's the same experience. I've had some amazing opportunities and some amazing not so good opportunities. But if I look back at my childhood or my younger self and say anything other than what's happening now, I don't think I would be happy, right? I think she's where she's supposed to be, right? Good on you for being you. I'm proud of you. When I'm smiling in my heart right now because that's the only thing that I can do. I think, where I am right now, I love it. And with everything that I've experienced, I wouldn't change it because I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be here sitting down in the counselor's office speaking with you. Right? So, yeah.
That's very true. I really like when you're you're where you need to be.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to swallow when you are younger and you're going through it, but it is true. There's nowhere else you can be. Everywhere you are in that moment is where you are. It's where you're going to be. So unless you are moving forward, then you're stuck there, and that's not where you should be. And you know this at the time. So I really like that. That's great. Did you see yourself having these types of collaborations? Did you see yourself in any way, shape, or form having this type of impact? Is it something that you wanted in your heart?
I mean, I've always saw myself as being a leader. And even sometimes I look back at it, I'm just how did I see that back then and where I am now? But I say this to myself all the time. You see yourself on a podium, and every time as I get older, I keep seeing the crowd getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So when I see those things, it gives me that empowerment of, okay, you're where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be doing what you're doing. And then I tell myself, probably I'm in a Delulu world and I dream a lot. But the dream is beautiful, is what I can say. The dream that I'm having and where I'm at right now and the experience that I'm having, I love to just live in the moment, even if the worst things are happening in the moment. I love to just embrace it and be like, all right, cool, what's next? That's it.
That's amazing. And I have to ask you, when you are sitting with your clients and your community and, victims or survivors, is this the type of conversation, is this the type of encouragement that you give them? Because it's
I would
powerful
think
right
so.
now. It's powerful as you say it right now. And this is not in a counseling office or a therapeutic chair, but I'm feeling it now. So is this the type of conversation that you have?
Well, I would think so. And I think that's why I'm here where I am, because I'm just me and I can't be anybody else but who I am, right? And what you see right now is what you get. The same conversation. If it wasn't you and somebody else, I would be speaking the same thing. And like I said before, lived experience is very important, because a lot of times when you speak on those lived experience and then you speak on what you've overcome, those testimonies are so powerful for me. So I feel like that's my kind of purpose in life, to uplift someone and to allow them to feel empowered when they're in a room with me, and that alone makes me smile. So if I'm doing my job, I love it. I love it.
You are doing it right now. And so, Councillor, I would ask you the same thing. You have a title and you're in the City Hall. It's very important. You've got a lot of status. Do you find when you sit down with possibly survivors or the community, having a lived experience, do you find that allows you to engage in a more, not necessarily meaningful, but a more personal, connected conversation?
Yeah, I think just being your genuine self, right? Human nature says that you can pick out the fake, right? And it's not hard to pick out the fake. So if you're just being yourself and being genuine, people will pick up on that, and they'll talk to you. They'll tell you things, and I don't think it's more complicated than that, to be honest with you. For me, did I see myself in this role? Yes. Right. What most people don't know about Brampton is City Hall used to be over in the Civic Center in Bramalea, and going to school over there, we used to go to City Hall for class trips, and the former mayor, Ken Willens, used to make sure that the chain of office was always put on every kid that went through the door. And that was something that, stuck with me through life. So I always wanted to be in this role. I waited to be in this role. Should I have been in this role earlier in life? Maybe. But as you said earlier, things happen for a reason and you just go with it, right? So I just think it's simply just be genuine. Be who you want to be, right? There's nobody else going to take that away from you. If you want to be a rocket scientist, which I don't even understand what that is, but
it's a rocket scientist.
Yeah,
whatever that means.
Exactly.
I don't
Do you know what they do?
No.
Do you know what they do on a day? I don't know what they do on a day-to-day basis.
I can look that up.
But if you want to, be the Prime Minister, there's ways to work towards that, and if you find mentors to help you do that, you'll get there. I don't think, again, it's just being genuine. It's simple. It's not as tough as what people think it is.
That last part is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think again, you're talking about being transparent, being truthful, and I think a lot of the time if people are not comfortable with themselves, then it does become a lot tougher. But if you can just not necessarily relax into it, but be comfortable and just being who you are, being authentic, then it does become a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not easy though. Like
No.
we can't sit here and say that it's easy. It's not. It's not. It's a working it's a working stage for people to overcome.
Sure. I mean, like I said, in my former life, where I was leadership training, developing, coaching that, I can stand in front of a room of 500 people and train like no other. I can get in a room full of 30 people and try to say something off the cuff, and it makes me nervous, right? So it is definitely not easy, but I find, and I think back over the last 3 years in office, the most impactful moments that I've spoken to groups is when I've been genuine.
I tend to worry a lot about public speaking and trying to speak to everyone in the room at the same time, and hope that you're touching everyone in the room. But I think, again, if you're coming from an authentic place and you're saying what's in your heart, everyone's going to take it in. I like that a lot. And I will ask you both, being from very different types of work, very different agencies, how do you feel it benefits the community when you do have the opportunity to collaborate? When you collaborate with each other as agencies, and when you collaborate, how does that affect victims, survivors, in knowing that there's a sort of unified support system?
I think, just thinking back through my journey and everything that I've gone through. So I gave up a football scholarship in high school because I didn't like school. I graduated college, I think it was 35, I think I was at the time. So I ended up going back to school. Had to pay for it, which sucked, but I don't think it's not as tough as what you think, right? I don't think just be you. Like, there's not much to it, right? Just be you. If people don't like it, who cares? There's other people that will like it.
That's where I'm at. No, collaboration is hard. It's not easy, and it doesn't matter what role you're in. Trying to get people to work with you and be engaged in what you're doing, your purpose, what that's like. I mean, being an agency and even having staff to be engaged in the agency and to love what I'm doing,
Right.
that's hard.
Right.
That's hard. So when we talk about that collaboration piece and working together, I feel like we do need to be ourselves authentically and just work with who is willing to work with you. You can't do anything more than that. Work with who's willing to work with you. You can extend your arm to as much people as possible, and I mean, I look at it as you win some, you lose some. But at the end of the day, a no is not going to kill you. So just move on when you hear it. That's it, right? And go somewhere else. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't like the project, someone else would. And it works best for those who decided to collab and work on it with, right? Doesn't mean that you missed out. It's just probably something that wasn't working for us at the same time.
There's an old saying, birds of a feather flock together.
There you go.
Yes.
So
There you go.
they'll all come together. Now, when you talk about collaboration, again, it's being genuine.
Yeah.
When you're trying too hard to be something that you're not, people feel it. They smell it, they see it, everything. And that's human nature. They don't go to it if they don't find it genuine. I think what a lot of people don't realize, we have agencies like Revive, we have other agencies throughout the city. There's something for everybody. There's things or groups or agencies or people out there for everybody. If you don't know, you don't know, right? So, I think the city itself, we have, I'll do a shameless plug, but it's not meant to be a shameless plug. We have the Entrepreneur Center. Most people don't realize it's a free resource that you can go out and you can use the facilities. You can use their meeting space. You can use their Wi-Fi. You can actually use it as an office, right? It goes back to the same thing: customer service and communication, right? And I spent years and years and years in sales, right? And those are the two biggest things. And if you have that mindset where everything's about that customer service piece and what communication is being put out there, there's resources for everybody, for anything you can think of, right?
So obviously that is one of the biggest benefits of collaboration, because you get to bring awareness to other agencies, to other resources and tools. That's actually very encouraging. I think that for victims, for survivors, the lack of awareness, the lack of knowledge of what is available to them is one of the biggest hindrances. Because even if you're feeling maybe self-conscious, you're worried about your story, you're worried about you tell it, if you know that there's somewhere you can go where someone will listen to you, it will allow you just to move forward. But when you maybe are only going to one spot and they're in no collaboration with another agency, they're just in a silo, as you mentioned earlier, and they don't have the tools and resources to help you, then you walk out of there and you're still alone, feeling alone.
And I think oftentimes just the nature of, some of the agencies, like yourselves, right? It seems to be very black and white.
Mm-hmm.
This is the protocol, this is the way you have to go, this is the way, if you do this, you have to go through this channel, this channel, this channel.
Yeah.
And I think when you go to talk about collaboration, if you understand that you don't necessarily have to follow those channels, right? And if you have people that are there to support you, find different channels and find different avenues, and you don't have to stay within that box, then you'll get the resources you need.
I agree with that. That's what I'm learning.
Yes.
So it's very important, and it's just like we went to a school a couple days ago, and they weren't even aware of our services. They weren't even aware of our services, what we provide. But as the students came by and they were taking the cards, and like even now within our emails, we have emails from students because they don't have the knowledge of the agencies that are even available to them, or the resources that are available to them, and what that looks like, right? So it's those different avenues, speaking to other people and speaking to the organizers, like, okay, now that we're aware, now I'm going to send out a blast email and have everyone else aware so that it goes here. And it's good because now that brings that collaboration piece and everyone now coming together and be like, okay, well, this agency provides 10 free counseling sessions. Were you aware of that? No, we weren't aware of that, but we have students that need this, right? So I think once we figure out those different avenues and then be able to go into different spaces also, that also helps. We at Revive tend to kind of show up into spaces and see what that looks like, and if it works, right? And if it doesn't, then, because that's for me, that's how we can also learn of that different avenues that's available to us. And if it works, it works, because it may even work for us, but it may not work for them, right? And then it's like, okay, well, at least we tried that avenue. So.
Human nature is that we're repetitive. We're conditioned to do the same thing
things
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And when you talk about services like Revive, there's other ones that are out there, but it's you have to go through a protocol. You have to go through, and I think back to me when I was younger. So we went to the police station. The police station sends us to an agency. The agency then sends us to this agency. And there is collaboration, but it's a roadmap and it's very much a box.
Yeah.
They would never say, oh, you know what, here's 5 different agencies, find the one that fits,
Yes.
right? They just say, no, you have to go here. And I can tell you from my experience, that one agency, I'll never do anything to support them to this day, right? And so you have to look outside the box. That, unfortunately, everybody's kind of got that political model instead of the corporate model, right? If you have a corporate model, you'll find a way to get it done.
That's fantastic. That's really good points that you brought up there. I feel like I could continue this conversation all day. You're giving me so much valuable information. I think you're giving the audience so much valuable information, but we cannot be here all day. And so I just want to ask you both, what do you hope for the future in terms of collaboration, in terms of, providing services for victims, survivors? What is your maybe one sort of significant hope that you'd like to see?
You only get one. You only get one.
Well, because one is unfair. Because,
you can. maybe think of something that's
I don't
reoccurring,
know.
that's something that's come up several times when you're in conversation, in collaboration, in the community.
Break the cycle.
Oh,
I think
that's a good one.
the thing for me, is break the cycle.
Break the cycle. I guess that's the next step, but that's a good one.
How do you break the cycle? Collaboration. Do you know what the problem is with a lot of agencies? Again, is that in the box mentality. They have to structure and function in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
In order to break the cycle or in order to make a change, you have to do something radically different. And unfortunately, everybody wants to stay in lanes, right? Even like I look back at, leadership training. There's an old training method that you stay within the rails, right? So once the rails start deviating and going different directions, right, you're lost. You can't accomplish anything, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So you have to stay in the rails. So that's the human nature side of things. We're told to stay within the rails,
Not to break the rules.
right? Not to go outside the box, not to think bigger, not to think or affect change. And unless you're going to break that cycle, you're not affecting any change. You're just going status quo. And I think collaboration, doing different things, changing the way we think and look at things, mentors instead of psychiatrists or psychologists. I've done all those. I've spent a lot of money on those people, and it's done nothing for me, right? So, it's, for me, I'm doing this every day and I'm working with different agencies. That's my healing. That's my way of collaborating and making a change, right? So, break the cycle.
I have to touch on you saying counseling though, because that's what we do.
I know.
So it works for some, and
But why not change it to, instead of counseling, change it to mentors?
peer support groups as mentors, right? Peer support groups as mentors, and sometimes others don't understand the difference and is not ready for that mentorship as yet.
Because of the box.
Because of the box, yeah. And I mean, I do think we have to be okay with some people being in the box for a while until they're ready to come out of the box. We have to be okay with that. Sometimes as leadership roles, we're going to look at things differently, and the way how I sometimes look at things is I want everyone to be a peer with me, but I gotta meet everyone at their level and then work with them.
Why?
Well, you and I role is different, so
Yeah,
you're
but-
asking me why.
Yeah, but why do you have to come down to everybody else?
Well, when
That's
we're
the box, right? So I'll
It is, but when we're talking about the dynamic of me working in the role that I work with the clients, and we're talking about survivors, I do have to come down to our survivors level for them to then be able to climb up. Because if I just grab them and say, come up here, that's just putting more trauma on them, depending on what they've already been through in that history, right? So that's why I said in our leadership role, it's different. Because at the same time, we may have the same perspective, but the clients or individuals that we deal with, it's a different aspect. It's a different box. It's a complete different box.
Is it though?
It is.
Let me ask you a question, real quick. Was Al Capone happy in the box?
Are we talking about Al Capone? Seriously?
Well, think about it. It's the same analogy. It's the analogy side of things. Did everything he could to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
I think.
But not everybody's ready to do everything that they can get out of it. That's why it's different when I say when it comes to our roles, right? Not us as individuals. Let's kind of separate us as individuals and who we are in the roles that we're at. But the roles that we are, you as a counselor, myself as a CEO, working with survivors and interacting with community that's been into traumatic situations, and this could have happened years ago, and they're now even seniors, and they've now at this point in time has gotten the ability to even seek help. What does that look like? Even when we talk about collaboration and them going through the system, coming to Revive or going to another agency, and that agency says, well, we can't help you. Then coming to Revive, and then Revive now is like, okay, well, we can support you, but they have all these other needs. Now we have to get in contact with all those different agencies to see how we can support them. But they're still in that box. And while they're in that box, agencies like ours is what's getting them out the box. But slowly, how does that work? The different navigations of what needs to happen. I mean,
We'll
we'll
go on
go on this all day, but nothing that we both said is wrong,
No,
right?
that's
Nothing
all.
that we both said is wrong.
I'm challenging the difference.
But you're challenging the difference, and I have to go back at it because of the type of clients that I deal with.
So I'll use another analogy.
Mm-hmm.
When you were younger, you ate dirt,
I did break dirt back home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? It was, nobody ever told you it was bad for you. You just did it because that was just the way
It was
it
actually good though.
Yeah.
Red dirt in Jamaica is healthy for you, you know. I didn't know you know that, but yeah, just like that.
The analogy is broken. The analogy is broken.
I'm sorry. Red dirt is actually healthy for you.
So the system is very clinical.
Okay.
It has to be sterile and very clinical,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just eat a little dirt and just do something different?
Well, that's what we're doing.
So pull them out of the box.
I just
Don't
said
go,
that.
don't go down to their level.
But I just
You
said
don't.
that. I just said that I have to pull them out of the box and
Don't go-
navigate.
you
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 know.
know what?
Don't go from here and go down to their level.
I think that is the point of the conversation, is that we're getting to see the different perspectives, even with the collaboration. You don't always have to agree. You don't always have to agree. You don't have to be coming from the same place, but typically if the end goal is the same,
But
you're gonna make
technically,
it
I
work.
said everything that he just said. All I said was we have to start in different ways.
Red dirt is good.
Yes.
Okay.
In Jamaica, red dirt is healthy for you, especially when you're pregnant. I'm
Well,
telling you.
That's a whole other
I'm just
conversation.
saying.
So glad I'm not down that road.
Research it. I'm just saying. Cultural aspect. I'm just saying.
I have a story I'll share with you a little later about the red dirt. But I do want to thank you both for your time today. I mean, this conversation has gone from the power of collaboration to, you know, the journey that people take, the way that you support your communities. I absolutely love that. And in the sort of essence of journeys, I'm going to switch it up for one last question to ask you, what song would you say would be the soundtrack of your life's journey?
Oh. A Legend by Chronix.
We're gonna have to put a link in the caption so people can listen
Nope.
to it. So they all know what it's about. Do you have one for yours?
Last Breath by Future.
Sure.
Oh,
Okay, another link.
okay.
Wonderful, I appreciate that. We're all gonna be immediately Googling after this is over to hear these songs, but regardless of what the songs are, I'm assuming that the words have had meaning for you, or at least they do now. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. I appreciate this entire conversation. You've provided a wealth of knowledge for myself, for the audience. I thank you both for your time. I thank you both for your efforts and the work that you do in the community. I'm sure our audience feels the same way. We've all learned something new today, and that's kind of what this conversation was all about. So I thank you again for your time. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
No, thank you.